Welcome, everyone. Second meeting of the month, April 15th. April 15th, that has a ring to it.
Oh God, it's as early as it comes. That's terrible.
We have a nice group this evening, including Krista McGough with the Council Land Trust is joining us. Thank you, welcome. We will get to her momentarily. Let's do a quick bit of business. I would look for the adoption of the minutes from April 15th,
Did you read them?
2019.
Oh, I mean, it should be April 1st.
Yeah.
There's a sentence in there saying that we're retaining Bennett, which I think is a mistake, for services related
Grab one of these blue pens.
to the firehouse oversight.
Okay, it was Tim Bennett, it wasn't.
Why don't we just,
Okay, it's not DWC, it's WDC.
Well, somebody can make that correction on there.
Okay.
Tim Bennett is a separate company.
Right. That's, in addition, they approached us, so it's technically correct.
Is he hired?
It's,
He will not be a paid consultant.
well, yes, he actually will be.
Oh, okay.
He is consulting at this moment. He hasn't submitted his consultation yet or a fee for it. But I did ask him to review
Okay.
for some value
Then-
engineering.
Okay.
And the only change is,
It's W.
I just copied it,
Mhm.
WDC instead of DWC.
Right. Okay, thank you. All right. Did we have a motion or did we make?
I'll leave you out that part yet.
Okay, is there a motion?
I move, or I'll second it.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, may we vote please?
Mr. Crockett?
Yes.
Mr. Major?
Yes.
Mr. Hollister?
Yes.
I would then move to, I would then entertain a motion to approve payment of bills in the amount of $41,186.05. Broken down, general fund, $3,520.24. Fire fund, $17,332.71. Cemetery fund, $136.20. EMS building, $12,082.43. Road and bridge, $6,649.15. And capital projects, $1,465.32. Is there a motion?
I so move.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, may we vote please?
Mr. Crockett?
Yes.
Mr. Major?
Yes.
Mr. Hollister?
Yes.
Ms. McGough's been waiting patiently for her turn at the
Do you want
bat.
to take a longer nap?
I'm making the baseball. You're welcome to the floor.
Thank you, thank you. It's nice to be back with you guys. It
Nice to have you.
took me a while to figure out what your new time was, but I'm here. And this is something that you guys have done in the past, approving basically a resolution to support our submission of an ag easement purchase program application. It's a part of our Jacoby Partnership Project, which is our 5-year federal, state, local partnership program to try to preserve basically as much land as we can in the two watersheds, Jacoby and Yellow Springs Creek, that are going through Miami Township. It goes up a little bit into Bath and a little bit down into Xenia, so it's a 26,000 acre area. And we've got some dedicated resources in terms of state monies as well as federal monies for this area. So we're probably not likely to have a better time as far as funding for conservation easement purchase in this area. Just to say, it also includes then funding through the EQUIP program, Environmental Quality Improvement Program, out of the Natural Resource Conservation Service for conservation practices also. we're a little behind on actually getting federal money in play,
Mhm.
but we hope to be able to get federal match for the project that we're bringing to you guys tonight.
Mhm.
And we have a lot of landowners that are really interested in conservation practices. So far, we've been really happy. We've had 3 different educational meetings that landowners have come to, and they've gotten to get a little exposure to the kinds of conservation practices
Mhm.
that could be at least 90% supported
Mhm.
through the EQIP program on their properties, and those include cover crops, grass waterways, permanent buffer strips,
Mhm.
to help filtrate the water. Water quality improvement's kind of the #1 goal. And so we're pretty excited about that. Interest in converting to organic
Mhm.
as well.
Mhm.
So I think we really might see,
Yeah, that's great.
yeah, might see some organic conversion in the township too. Now you guys have got the copy of the resolution,
Mhm.
and then also the map.
So,
And
I'm sorry, point, almost,
so the purple property there is the property that's in Miami Township, and it's Paul Pitstick Trust property.
so it's the part that Tom Pitstick bought.
Yes, yep.
Well, that's great.
Yeah, and in fact, that family is applying for some other easements up in Bath Township
Mhm.
also.
Mhm. Did you've got a copy of this here.
Well, I would move that we resolve to support this application.
Is there a resolution number, Margaret?
It would be 2019-14.
Dash what?
14, 14.
There's a motion and a second, or excuse me, there's a motion, is there a second?
Yes.
Mr. Hollister moving, Mr. Crockett second, is there any further discussion regarding supporting this motion? Hearing none, may we vote please?
Mr. Mutcher,
Yes.
Mr. Crockett,
Yes.
Mr. Hollister.
Yes. Could I ask a question on
Absolutely.
this subject? Remind me, in the broader grant, 5-year grant scheme, would further north on Yellow Springs Creek, I shouldn't say who, but somebody spoke about creating a wetland on their farm north of Hill Road.
Yeah, up to the township boundary.
Right.
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
And one other thing of interest I just wanted to mention to you guys, we've been, of course, tracking the solar farm, leasing
Mhm.
process that's been going on, and have gotten some questions from landowners, who, are interested in getting some more information about kind of the pros and cons of those leases. So we're, working on doing an educational session with, OSU Extension in
Oh.
Greene County. And it's probably gonna be June or something like that, but, we're looking to get some good resource people about, the type of leases and, the longevity factors, what people might be able to expect.
Mhm.
And I think we'll also have a little bit of information about on-farm solar,
Mhm.
as another alternative too, that people might be interested in if they do still want to farm their land in the next 40 years.
Mhm. Yeah, right.
It may be too late, but I'm advocating for not using the term solar farm. It's an
It's not a
oxymoron.
farm.
A
Yeah.
solar array,
Yeah.
something other,
Right.
because it's definitely not farm.
That's a good point.
Solar installation.
Yeah, solar installation.
Yeah, and I understand those, if in fact the leases come to fruition after this initial period, signing period, they would not be CAUV anymore, so they could
No.
no longer qualify for
No, there would not be farms.
agriculture.
I wonder what they'd be designated tax-wise for value.
They're just the standard appraised value. I mean, in other words, the county would appraise them at market value.
But for business, or, I mean, what
Yeah,
kind of,
it's business.
uh-huh.
It's worth asking the auditor.
Well, I mean, we could ask, the Village of Yellow Springs has, and Antioch College both have solar arrays. They're not, they're tax exempt, but that doesn't mean that the process, they go through and still do the assessment.
Yeah, that's
and then-
true. Mhm.
I think you'd have to pay recoupment and
Mhm.
everything now, and
Yeah, the
and
3 years,
it's-
sure.
I've read one version of the lease, and, it, appears that the company is supposed to pay for that recoupment and pay for the difference
Mm.
over those years. But how they guarantee that payment, I'm just not sure.
Mm.
The interesting thing right now is more or less, in Miami Township, the land is worth as much for agriculture as it is for development, because we're not doing a lot of development that says it raises the price. So it's interesting these days, what the recoupment might not be so much unless you look at putting a solar array on the property and that increases its
212
its
into
value.
10, that is 71, you're needed.
There's still a difference though, for sure,
Yeah,
between.
yeah, well, because you still have,
CAUV.
the land trust does the assessments to find the difference between the farm value and the development value to purchase the easements.
Right, and especially Miami Township is pretty high for development, largely because of the appetite for frontage lots still.
Where are you in your in-progress sections?
We are hot and heavy on getting these applications out. The 19th is the deadline for our federal match.
Mhm.
And then, I think that, the end of the month is the deadline for our paper copies of all the attachments to the state, to
Mhm.
ADA. So we'll find out about June, basically, probably about both sources. I don't know if we'll have actual awards in hand at that point, but
Yeah.
we'll have a good idea.
How many total projects are you presenting to the Clean Ohio for consideration?
I think that it's probably 15,
Is that right?
something like that.
Yeah.
And so we sort of have two pots at this point. We have one pot of up to $100,000 for the Jacoby Partnership
Mhm.
area,
Mhm.
and then we have another $300-some thousand for the rest of Greene and Clark County.
Mhm.
So it's a little something different, but our state partners are all pretty excited about participating in it.
Yeah.
So, and just to say, there's a lot of restoration money in there too.
Hmm.
So, I mean, there are possibilities for restoring wetlands through that, the QUIP dollars, but also through some EPA money that is a part of the partnership too. So, any ideas anybody has, this is a great time. We'll be basically signing people up for the QUIP applications with a deadline at the beginning of October. So this summer is, definitely the time to get out there and visit properties. And then the next EPA deadline is July 1st, so it's getting pretty short for that water resource restoration sponsorship program, but they pay 100% of the restoration costs as well as the easement costs and whatever else project costs are involved, title, appraisal, the whole shebang. So if you really have an area that you want to get back to a pristine state, possibilities.
Mhm. Sounds good.
So, you need signatures on this, or is it just with their names? No, signatures. Okay. So,
Clean
there's the
copy.
chair, the vice chair, and the remainder. I don't remember, are you the vice chair? I don't remember who it is, but I'll make a copy of it as soon as,
I am
You
not
guys-
the vice chair.
you guys sign the paper.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're still functioning, but you might want to get them to point out things to be restored. I mean, that area on, Hill Road, I don't think it'll be restoration. It's nobody's taking it away from being wetland.
Okay, oh, it's remains,
Yes.
it's
It
been out
had
of
to be- it had to be
cultivation.
agri- yeah.
Okay, but yeah, so there could be, some.
I'm not sure about that, but
Enhancements of native plants and that kind of thing, but
where we have literally lost wetlands that could be restored is a different concept, but they were doing research on that kind of thing.
Okay, I think we'll move along. Thank you, Krista.
Yeah, thank you.
Correspondence for the period, we have OTA's grassroots clippings, we have League of Women Voters, The Voter newsletter. We have an invitation from Great Lakes chapter of Society for the Prevention of Old Mill, Preservation of Old Mills for their spring meeting, May 18th in Youngstown. It's
I
interesting.
think we should note your Freudian slip when you said prevention. Mills.
That's that.
Signs of the-
We had a letter from Green County Regional Planning about the complete count committee that's being formed for the census. We want to pay attention to that because that's coming up. We have pipelines from the Green County Sanitary Engineering Department. We have an information letter from the I'm not sure which credit card is 4144. I guess I don't think that's ours.
Maybe it's Collins or Denny's.
Could be. A information letter from Direct Energy about our natural gas pricing. Question from Lisa Abel about the old CETA agreement, which expired in 2011. Some information from MSA about the construction manager process that we're entering into.
Will we be talking about that at all in the
We certainly will. We'll be talking about that probably.
new firehouse?
Good. We have a copy of Chief Altman's report, monthly March report about Township of service. We have monthly newsletter from Green County Council on Aging. We have more information about the draft addendum to the architectural agreement, which we will be referring to again, and some more about that, We have information about the motor vehicle license fee that we are now, well, not right this minute, because it won't take effect till July, but we will be authorized to increase by $5 come July. Give us a little additional.
Is that our option, or do we have to do it through the?
It is our option this time. We don't have to go through the county like before. Generates about roughly 4,000 or 5,000 motor vehicle license. Information about the regional planning committee meeting tomorrow, legislative alert from Ohio Township Association, another legislative alert from Ohio Township Association. One was on general, and this is on the, specifically on the transportation budget, just a little behind the times. MVRPCs, we're rolling in the spring with a bike month and all kinds of good executive director information. Some information about a trip I'm going on with MVRPC on, it's either June 8th or June 9th. You said June 8th on that number.
What does NARC stand for?
What does NARC stand for?
That's, it says NARC conference.
National Association of Regional Councils.
Oh.
Oh.
Hmm.
And I don't have the date, well, departure date 6/8.
Okay,
Is that the date?
you can't go canoeing.
Was that in the morning? I hope.
Yeah.
I hope I can do it in the morning. I'm gonna do it till I start. Well,
What did you say?
I said I had hoped I could do it in the morning and then be able to rest up for the next day, but anyway. Okay, any other correspondence in or out? Hearing none, let's move along to the firehouse report, please.
Okay. Since the last meeting, there have been 43 EMS incidents, 26 fire incidents, and 4 fire safety inspections.
Did I get a memo on my desk?
No, because none of you did. Well, I started and then I went out with training and got back 3 minutes before the meeting, so.
If you make a copy of that for me, that'd be grand.
No. The bulk of the fire incidents, I think, well, not a bulk, but like 11 of them came from the Friday morning's windstorm. Moved through, which turned out to be straight line winds here in Miami Township that then went and made a little baby tornado, unfortunately. So we had, in the township, there were 5 barns that sustained damage from the winds. The village had 2 structures that were damaged by trees coming down. So the guys were busy for about 2 hours Friday morning, going back and forth and checking on different things. Luckily, there were no big fire hazards and no one was hurt, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, those trees and power lines, they can certainly
Yeah.
zap something ablaze
Yeah.
quickly enough.
And then we lucked out yesterday and all the bad stuff in the storm went into Clark County, so. That's the event.
That was nice in the storm.
Yes, it was. I thought so.
Their damage was mostly from trees falling down too.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think they declared that when they did, the tornado Friday morning in Clark County was like an EF0.
I didn't know they went down that low.
Yeah, neither did I, but I learned a lot Friday afternoon, or Friday evening when I drove around the township with Roseanne from EMA and 2 people from the weather service. And a lot of terms I never knew existed, like splatter. Post-storm splatter. So. But anyway, so. We rushed the Bath Township tanker into service because our existing tanker, we used it Tuesday night in the training, and the main rear dump valve started to leak a little bit, about 5 gallons every 3 or 4 hours. In the past, we've had that problem. It's due to, for lack of a better term, barnacles from our hard water building up. So we went out, dumped the tank on Saturday, and the crew took some CLR and got rid of the barnacles. Yep. But we noticed that the big butterfly flapper valve was pretty much all gone on the inside. So when they filled the tank back
That's a
up,
lot of scrubbing.
it started losing about 5 gallons of, seemed like 5 gallons a minute basically. So luckily we had another tanker. So we put that one. That's why it's visiting, the old one's visiting you, and then we'll move it outside. And we're gonna order another, unless it's crazy expensive, which it shouldn't be. We're gonna order another valve so at least it'll hold water, and that way we have our backup tanker ready to go.
Well, it's empty, so there's no reason you can't move it outside now.
Yeah, I guess that's true. It is empty. Yeah.
There's
That's what's
a,
on my pit.
Yeah.
I thought that was the new truck you've been rented, to be honest.
there's a short bit of hose with a valve attached to the hydrant
Yes.
on
That is
South
the
College.
village.
That's village.
Yeah, they're using that. They're prepping
It's new spot,
for filling the pool. Or
No,
cleaning
no,
the
that's,
pool.
it's
not-
got directional boring with vector doing.
Oh yes, and they're also using that too.
Okay.
Yep.
yeah. Alright, I believe.
And that's the best hydrant to use in the town because it doesn't stir up too much schmutz.
Mhm.
So, I will actually give props to the village for the new water plant and both tankers when we were doing the drill, dumping the water. And usually, you had a lot of iced tea coming out of these tankers, and it was crystal clear, beautiful water.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, probably the first time in my career. That
How many years?
long time. Long time. Actually, sometimes we'll have clean water, but usually it's when we filled up at the air park. Yeah, these are great, so whatever they did worked well. Saturday we participated in opening day for trails here in Yellow Springs for the Trails Coalition. And we gave out, with the police department, we gave out 150 hot dogs. So,
They were good too.
well fed and happy. And some actually little safety bikes that we purchased. So those worked out really nice.
How many cans of wobbly wheel did you give out?
Oh, we're supposed to give that out? I tried to convince Jeremy to ride the wobbly wheel bike, but he wasn't having it, so. Poor kid. May 6th, your next meeting. Christy Bradford from Kindergarten Health Network will be here to, she's gonna present the guys,
Mhm.
we say that gentleman from that township with, some recognition from Kevin Huffman, so.
And I believe all are part of the Bath Township trustees will be here.
Awesome. And then, you know, because nothing's ever easy, staff changes, Ryan Evans has been working for us for about a year, very good employee, got a conditional job offer from the City of Springfield Fire Division, so he'll be more than likely leaving us next month. So, yeah. I mean, good for him, that's great for him, but, so, we'll be taking current volunteer Forrest Weiss, and putting him into a part-time status, but I didn't have time to do the resolution for you guys today. He's helped out as a volunteer filming shifts, he's got a good head and shoulders, he works for Franklin Fire Department as well.
Maybe we should include that sign up, or increase that sign-on bonus to 25 grand or something.
They might help.
All right, sign up.
And then, we had, maybe you saw it in the Yellow Springs News, we had a new ad designed, Jane Stan did a new ad for us for recruiting, volunteer recruiting. And I ran it for 2 weeks in the paper, they had a blurb about us needing people last week, that Carol did. And then we're gonna,
His applications have flooded in.
well, I haven't seen
Ringing off the-
I haven't seen them, but we're gonna do another mailing. I mean, that seemed to really help, and actually a Facebook campaign was the most helpful thing to do.
Yeah.
So I've got cards already.
Mhm.
We just have to modify them, just basically print some labels and change the date, do another open house, and see what we get. Hopefully some,
All right.
get some volunteers.
I hope so.
And then last but not least, our stair climb is coming up. We've got this new flyer, fancy flyer. Premier Health has signed on this year as our title sponsor for that, so it's fantastic.
They won the arm wrestling contest with Kettering.
Well, Kettering's too slow.
Oh.
I mean, basically that's what it boiled down to.
Usually it is.
Premier jumped on that really quickly. And
That's in September?
yeah, September 7th. And as far as I know, the packet at Kettering is still slowly making its way. It used to be, we just went through the Green Medical Foundation, dealt with Jeff Brock,
Mhm.
but apparently corporate-wise, they're changing that whole process, and Green Medical Foundation is basically giving food, which is great, and they're gonna be our lunch sponsor.
Mhm.
Select will be the lunch sponsor.
Nice.
But money now comes, I guess, right from ownership, so
Mhm.
we're learning to use that process. But at least Premier jumped right on it, and they're happy. We're doing there'll be a big rollout on the 29th, announcing them as the
Mhm.
sponsor from one of the helipads, actually, so it's
Oh, yeah.
kind of cool. So,
What-
big thanks, Premier.
Yeah.
That's $4,000.
What potential impediments might be from the, I know the Community Foundation donated $500,000 to the re-plumbing.
No problem.
Yeah,
It's not gonna.
Jackie assures me it's not an issue, so. It's basically.
At least
being
not this year
piped
and probably not next year.
Right,
Yeah,
I mean,
okay.
and it's definitely necessary, because I can vouch for the building's condition is not getting, I mean, it's a bunker, but I mean, in terms of paint and
Uh-huh.
smell.
I don't know.
it's not
No,
gonna-
the work that's going on, but that work is primarily to install a heating system that will keep the building dry year-round. And it won't have, we're still a long way from using the building for anything
Yeah,
else.
yeah,
I say we, I'm part of the committee that's working on all of this.
right.
Every now and then when you go to the main building, suddenly Richard's in there, and it's kind of terrifying when he pops out of somewhere. Hi! What are you doing in my building? He's got very quiet feet. But yeah, so it should be fine, at least this year. So this year's done, so.
Okay. I was wondering if that would change your timetable, but okay, great.
And that is it. No, we did have there was a bill in there for new turnout gear, you mentioned earlier today, but this 10-year NFPA rule on turnout gear is, starting to kill us, but.
Tell them, put your wish list to Bath Township, and
Yeah,
throw a few sets of turnout gear on there.
yeah, we may have to. I was trying to come up with stuff that was kind of non-essential, since technically it's only a loan, and I guess if anything ever happened, we would buy it from them or something. I mean, I did mention it, but Steve said they wanted, the turnout gear would have to fit him, pit stick and just in case, so.
Now we recruit people by size, not
At times, people walk in the door and you're like, ah, we got nothing. That was kid named Walter, you guys appointed last week. It's like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that or just have to have them rotate. You know, they're on a triple shift schedule.
Right.
Okay, today you get the gear. That probably violates some savings somehow, so. Anyway, but at least that turnout gear was purchased on state of Ohio contract, so it saves us apparently about $400, so.
That's
Hey,
great.
You know,
That's wonderful.
savings is savings, I guess. Anyway, that's us.
I wanted to publicly thank you for the quality of the job that your crew did. I don't think you were there that day, burning the prairie grass at Natural Barrows Cemetery.
that got good coverage.
Yeah,
That's right, it did.
I was there for the photos and I left, so.
It was pretty complete.
Good.
And one of these days when Dan gets caught up with
Caught up with everything.
you need to take your
Take some trees.
new chainsaw and I can't believe how those trees have grown.
Focus on that one end, they're just,
They're
off the
coming
root-
up
They're
from
coming off the
roots.
roots.
It's
They get a
amazing.
head
Yeah.
start.
They were never there before. They just,
They show up, don't they?
If you cut down a locust tree, you will get locust trees coming up all around it.
yeah.
Really?
A certain,
Oh,
certain
yeah.
distance out, then the roots will sprout.
Wow.
They come up off.
They don't do it at the stump like a lot
Yeah.
of trees, they do it further out.
Wow.
Rascals.
But
Little
there were
locusts,
never
you can cut
locust
off
trees
and
there.
knock them up with a
On
stump.
that side down, on the north side, they're all locust trees.
Oh, that's what's coming over? Really?
So we'll pluck them.
Well, some of
Slow
them
them
are
down
more
a little
pluck.
bit, and it won't stop them.
Well, some of them you gotta do more than pluck. They're 20 feet tall.
They'll come out. Have them be quick.
Don't fight with them.
And I also wanted to mention that, I think we talked about it briefly, but we do have the necessity of putting a fire levy on the ballot. Either, well, it's too late for the spring, so fall this year, or spring, fall next year, according to David Graham.
Yes.
We can do it, any of those.
And any of those
Service.
Three, yeah.
We'll just need to see which one the schools are gonna be on.
Right.
And if, I don't know if we talked about this. Do you want me to
I haven't heard anything.
email Mr. Graham with just like how much money would a replacement do and how much would the renewal do? Or did someone do that? Or should I do it?
Well, let's wait
Okay.
Hold
Okay,
on, just for a little bit, anyway.
Yep.
We'll have to get into that more fully. Okay, that it? Sounds like it. So let's move to the fire department report. Some people, not me, have been working like little beavers the past 2 weeks to get all the nuts and bolts worked out and the I's dotted and the T's crossed on the agreement that we discussed. We have been discussing now for a fair amount of time between MSA, ourselves, and WDC in Springfield to act as the construction manager agent on the project. And those details have been worked out. There is an agreement, I gotta keep all these players separate, there's an agreement between MSA and WDC on the additional services contract, subcontract, which is what it would be, with MSA, with WDC for MSA for that work. And that scope of work is in this document here, and this has been agreed to by both parties. And they will, if we accept the, what are we calling this? The additional services request for enhanced CA services. and I forget what CA is, I know what C is, M is, construction manager. It must be construction advisor, something like that, it could be. If we accept this at the terms, and there were terms, there were modifications, MSA's scope of work will decrease in one area, and we will be credited $11,730. How they get that so close, I have no idea. But then they will have to take on additional responsibilities, which would increase the price for $38,000. So there would be, there would be an offset. But the total would be, the total for the additional construction management agent service would be, because they're gonna, WDC is gonna charge 4% of the project, so it comes out to $219,000, and then the pluses and minuses, the total is $245,000, $250,000 for the construction management to complete the project. Again, we talked about that at our last meeting. If this went out to single source bids like we had done the first 3 times, that price would have been roughly 15% of the, so 750,000. So we're basically, just by making this one change, we're saving about $500,000, what it would have been. So that's a good first step. And then once we've signed this, I will be actually physically taking 3 copies of these tomorrow morning and meeting Ashley Kelly from the USDA in Xenia, and then he is going to forward his copy to his people in Washington DC, because it's the DC office that has to approve the construction management agreements, and not the Columbus office, which does the other ones. Don't ask me why. And then he will deliver one set to WDC in Springfield and one set to MSA in Cincinnati for us. And so then once all of those parties have a copy of that, then they will sign, wherever it is, the addendum to the contract for our agricultural. The 15-page addendum. Anyway, it's around somewhere. That's not, we don't sign that, that's between those two for the services. And those terms and conditions have been also reviewed by both of their organizations and their attorneys, and they have agreed to the language in that addendum. And so, once that's done, and I believe that's going to be at a special meeting held here next Wednesday, the 24th. We talked about that special meeting in the afternoon. We will have it in the afternoon, it will be determined, but
And
it will be the
we haven't set
No, but
exactly what time, because
not yet. But it's probably about, they usually seem to like 2:30.
I have, it'll be awkward for me to be on time if it's before 1:30.
Oh, it will be before. Hopefully. So anyway, and at that time, we will then, the clock starts on everybody to get this project built. They will then start making, hopefully multiple trips back and forth, and not to here, but between offices, and then bring us the options for getting it in line with the price that we feel we're gonna need to have it go out to the multiple contract bids.
This is piece by piece.
Right, it's piece by piece. And some of these ideas that we talked about, we have talked about that are just yet to be determined. And we haven't, as I say, we haven't even heard from the APP, the app architects that are looking over for the value engineering also. But some of the things we talked about is to not have a sprinkler system in the building. Say it's about $150,000+. But to do that, we'd have to swap where the bunk rooms are now over to where the fitness center and the water pump, the domestic water pump would be. apparently that's a viable, not too costly, change of position for those things. What were the other ones? There were some electrical things. Oh, we were looking into potentially changing the HVAC system
Roof
from
mount to whatever.
either zoned,
Yeah.
or maybe another kind. I'm not really sure about that. Smaller items, some electrical things that might save $50,000+ if the panels aren't as big or stuff. So those are all things that are, they haven't even, we had a conversation last Wednesday and they hadn't even started looking at any of those things. And rightfully so, because they're not under contract to do it, so, you don't wanna start paying estimators and draftspeople and
Yeah.
this, that, the other thing, until, there's actual, money behind it. So that will start happening, next Wednesday, assuming that there is someone at this table who would move to approve this additional services request, extended CA services, between MSA and WTC.
And that's for a total of roughly 210,000.
230, I think, remember we had 219 minus 11,7 plus 38, 245, 250.
And we're anticipating that this will save us, the whole move will save us $1 million.
This move will only save us a half, but after that,
The idea is that by piecing it out, rather than bidding it as one package, some of the pieces will be lower.
some of the pieces will be lower, but we will have to do additional value engineering. The example being changing the sprinkling system, not doing the sprinkling system.
So not, this isn't, so you're saying, this isn't a magic wand for $1 million, but this is going in the direction that we
Mhm.
are expecting
Yeah.
to save more money.
Right, and on top of the 5, realistically, I mean, the minimum we'll have to probably value engineer out is another 300,000. The high end would be $1 million, if we can't get to what we feel comfortable with after we're at 300, we'll probably just go with that and save, say it's 750, roughly 750 less than the last bid, the contract maximum would be, so. So anyway, I would entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Crockett moves, is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Hollister seconds. Any further discussion regarding signing this agreement? Hearing none, may we vote please?
Mr. Mucher,
Yes.
Mr. Hollister,
Yes.
Mr. Crockett,
Yes.
All right, so I will get these signed and over to Mr. Kelly
so,
in the morning.
what, just for the sake of, the minutes, the agreement is, it's an agreement between MSA, Miami Township, and the WDC. What kind of, is there anything I can say, a signature of a signed
Okay.
agreement?
This is an agreement between MSA and Miami Township, not WDC.
Oh, okay,
It is an agreement to allow MSA to enter into agreement, to agree to allow MSA to enter into agreement with WDC to be the construction manager agent on the project
construction.
and work together towards that
their
area.
agent.
Right. And whose responsibility is whose, et cetera, and that is spelled out in the subsequent document of scope of service that's attached.
Thank you,
Mhm.
I got it,
Okay. We clear?
One vote?
I think we did.
I think we did.
Yeah, pretty sure. It was all yes. And that's pretty much everything that's really been, or everything which wasn't a whole lot, wasn't a whole lot for us, but it was a lot for them to work on and, for the new firehouse project. So if there's nothing else from anyone, we can move along to, cemetery.
Yes, sir. Well, we got a couple burials. We had one down here last Monday and one in Clifton on Tuesday. So, a little bit of action. I've got one pending, but I don't know how soon. She called last week, she hadn't called back.
Hmm.
We have one pending for down here. Grass season was begun.
Yep.
Clifton was mowed last week.
Mhm.
Caught it in time. Last year we were a week behind because of the weather. But hopefully we can stay ahead of it this year. We'll do our best.
Yeah, well,
So
we know how fast it grows in April and May, but don't we?
I put a call in to see when this was gonna be mowed, but I haven't had a return call yet, so.
Mhm.
We're gonna get on the first one, and then call me back. Call me tomorrow.
They mowed east today.
Did he?
Mhm.
No, he can call me back.
He's gotten the mower probably. Maybe didn't hear.
Maybe, I'll call him Friday.
Yeah.
Well, that's good, I hadn't noticed it had been mowed, so it's been this afternoon.
Mhm. Yeah. It was
Well,
there.
then that answers my question down one.
Okay.
And Chief, I want to thank you for burning the thing up, so thank you too.
Hey, our pleasure. I always like that, it's easy.
Mhm.
For the Clifton, you said the meeting, they okayed the chip seal? The Clifton? Good. I'll add that to the list, cause pre-con is,
Wednesday?
so I'll put it on the list. Okay. That's all I had.
Did you have any contact with Walt from Grave
Nope.
Rumors?
No,
No?
two messages,
Yeah.
no return call.
But the answer the phone? So,
I had a message, it says leave a message, didn't it?
Yeah.
I did,
yeah. Okay, well,
try again.
try it.
Maybe I'll go on his website tonight, maybe.
Maybe he and Tim Canada
Maybe they.
gone fishing or
Yeah,
something.
maybe.
For as much luck as you've had with that. Speaking of grave groomers, I'm sure your list, your substantial list also includes topping up seating and
Yep.
installing.
Yeah,
Graves. How many you got to do?
7 down here, I think, there's
Mhm.
3 in Clifton, 7 or 7 over here.
Mhm.
They'll be seated, complete green by Memorial Day.
There we go.
I'll do my best. We have some bases we got a few put in. Clifton, down here, I think, we got one to rework.
Yeah, I got it, I got there,
You got
I
another?
got one today.
Okay, I think we have 5 in Clifton to do.
Any idea when those names are gonna be put on the stone in the scattering garden?
No, but I talked to Larry today, and I didn't think to ask him. Now, they were blasting some names last week, the guy was in doing some names, section in the or somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
On the regular stones, I'll
Mhm.
have to call Larry, I'll call Larry,
Well,
and find out when they're gonna.
potentially they've done it then, because I mean, it doesn't take very long.
I didn't look,
Yeah,
but I will, I'll make a point to. And if they haven't, I'll call Larry,
I mean, I looked before we burned the thing, but,
and they hadn't been done.
but somebody's been down here, but, yeah.
Okay. I'll look, and if they haven't, I'll call Larry.
Okay. We have, we're in the middle of finishing up or doing the veterans markers in the cemetery. We had 50 or so done last week, and they were reinstalled Saturday, and then took another 50 out Saturday, and I gotta straighten up a lot of them are bent up. They're gonna-
I straightened a couple of your others you had laying around the table from the last round.
Yeah, well, you
I can straighten some
these
more if you
too.
like,
If you're sitting around,
in my spare time.
yeah, in your spare time, I'm going to get to that in the next day or so, because I'm trying to beat Roger as best I can. Have him
For his
put back.
trimming and stuff.
Yeah. So, we'll do that. They have graciously agreed or refused payment for the work, and I don't think that's fair.
This is Xenia Foundry.
Yeah,
So Xenia Foundry has been doing free work in honor of veterans.
yeah, they have, and I'm going to make an executive decision to offer the man doing the work on it, he's doing it on his own, a gift card. I mean, I'm gonna send it to him. He doesn't wanna take anything, but if you get something in the mail and it's a week after you did it, you're not gonna get it. Send it back, hopefully. But anyway, So, I'm very grateful that they decided to do all, and that's pretty much gonna do it. Unless there's some hiding around somewhere.
How about in the Clifton Cemetery? I saw a few on the ground.
This was a Village of Yellow Springs offer. I did inquire about that, so.
Did you need to mention how much you were, was you paying for this out of your pocket, this gift card?
No,
Well, did you mention how much you got to do with, authorize how much you're, or is it just around?
not yet,
Okay,
yeah, not yet.
okay,
And
No.
alright.
Yeah.
Lots of times you'll mention the price.
Yeah.
Do that.
So
Yeah,
That's
but-
all.
a cemetery expense.
Okay, that's all I had for cemeteries. How about roads? How about them roads?
yeah, they're still there. Still have
Thank
some
goodness.
potholes too.
Potholes and trees.
Potholes and trees. Some of
Jeez.
the trees make the potholes.
How many did you say you had from Friday?
14 total.
14 trees.
Yeah, I'm talking, you know, trees that big around, trees that big. There's
I-
still one like that, it needs to be cleaned up, yeah.
See, that's a
Big one
lot
on
of,
Bryan Park Road, we got it cleaned up, Friday.
oh, I didn't see that one.
It's all cleaned up.
I guess so.
Guardrail's all busted though, I need to put some guardrail up, so.
I saw some on Glen Drive, Hyde and Houston. Is that where the majority of yours were?
There's one on the circle, that was previous. It's still in.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was previous, but,
Oh, it was?
yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't.
North River Road, South River Road, of course, that one was actually off the road, the one that's up there, but Hyde Road, couple spots, Houston Road, which they called while we were keeping the road blocked on South River, so I called Mike at Township, and they just happened to be just down the road.
Is that right?
And I said, would you do something? And they said, yes, we would. So they opened the road, we cleaned that up today.
Mhm.
Figured out the field, what's in the ditch down in the ditch I left.
Mhm.
We cleaned that one up today and then some others. And the pile of branches at the firehouse lot.
Mhm.
Cleaned up today. So tomorrow, the plan is to take down the long line and get it.
Well, that was a,
It's a big,
yeah, it is.
and it's still hung up there, so it's gonna be a little tricky.
Yeah, it's ugly.
I'm gonna take everything off and try to get it to hang and then lay the whole thing down.
Mhm.
We'll get it. We can handle the job. Yeah, I told you, pre-con meeting Wednesday, we'll go to that.
Mhm.
Put our catch basin movement off till next week,
Yeah.
once the bias, but it is gonna get moved. Not till next week now. So. And hopefully if I can get a lot done this week, I might take Friday off, but that's, yeah. That's what I have to do.
Yeah. You got all week left, kind of all week. No. Tuesday,
Hustle.
Wednesday, Thursday.
If not, I'll be here Friday.
That's it. Thank you. Anything for road administrator? Keep those wheels turning. You know, I find it interesting that after all the back and forth and the transportation bill and the gas tax and everything, the projected amount of the 10.7, after you change the percentage to 55-45, it's still roughly the same amount as it was at the 18 cent. $800+ million, 852 or something.
But our share
It's 56,000 about.
is, not the 90 that we put forward.
Oh, is that right? You looked at the
I
new
saw it
distribution?
Yeah,
Really?
it's in the
Yeah,
paper, I think.
56.
It was 90
I looked it
originally,
up.
what the estimate was,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it was in the Dayton paper.
Oh,
It listed all of them, all the, municipalities and, were the same as, I think, Bath Township and Springfield Township.
mhm.
Anyway, it was right around 56,000, I think.
On top of what we're already getting.
Yeah,
No,
no, that's okay.
That'll be a help,
yes,
for sure.
I'll buy some tires or something.
go back.
Buy some blacktop, hopefully.
Blacktop, hopefully.
Yeah. Okay, we shall move along. Fiscal officer? Do you have a resolution for us?
You know, we spent all that,
Already?
training services money on the, that door thing. So, So I had to appropriate more money in the training services fund and the
Did we
EMS
get the
billing.
cost share from that? Is that done? Whoever was cost
Yeah, we
sharing
got
that?
the check from Seattle.
Okay, oh, it was just the one entity?
Yeah,
Oh, okay,
the Fire Men's Association.
those firemen.
Yep.
Good.
Yeah, actually, I should ask the firewomen, actually.
Yeah, chip in, girls, come on.
So I can read a resolution for you all.
All right.
It's 2019-13 Amendment of Permanent Appropriations. Whereas it is an ongoing process to accurately appropriate funds according to the needs of the township. Now therefore the trustees authorize an amendment of the following permanent appropriation. And as I said, in the EMS Services Fund 2281-230-318, training services increased by 4,000, which is what we originally appropriated, and I just put it back in there because we spent it already. And the fund is okay. It didn't hurt the fund to do that, so. Anyway, there you go.
I move adoption of this resolution.
I'll second
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion regarding this resolution? Hearing none, may we vote please?
Mr. Crockett,
that. Yes.
Mr. Hollister,
Yes.
Mr. Meacher,
Yes.
and I wanted to get back with you all about the mystery 62,000, or was it 67.5
Mm-hmm.
of other, and we didn't know what that was all about.
Mm-hmm.
Well, primarily, it represents the homestead and rollback monies that we
Mhm.
get twice a year.
Mm-hmm.
That like last year, it totaled $69,800. So that's pretty much where that money is. It's classified as other, so other is like that line, it's everything but the property tax, personal property and, state receipts or whatever. So that's how you get that money.
It was just so coincidentally close to other financing sources.
Well, those numbers move, that doesn't matter.
So the other intergovernmental, you're saying that's the homestead rollback,
Yes.
and the other financing sources as well?
Yeah, here's a, if you wanna take a look at this is the revenue receipt register,
Mm-hmm.
and it's all the quote-unquote other,
Mm-hmm.
line items, and so you can see that the highlighted is the rollback homestead. When we get our, it's on the, it's part of the, when we get our biannual settlement, big fat money from property taxes, that's also in there.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to duck out, I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, thank you, but I was asking about $9.99, not $5.99.
Well, is it down on there? I basically included, that's for last year. I
Yeah,
included-
but last year's was 7,700, and this year's is 62,250, or 67,500. Last year it was 7,735.
Well, I think in the revenue receipt area though, it doesn't
That was from,
break down all that stuff.
yeah, the Bureau
Let me see.
of Workers' Comp. It's the bottom, this one. It's the only one listed $5.99.
No, this is, it says $9.99, you mean?
Or $9.99, I'm sorry. I mean, 9.90, $5.90.
And it was, I don't know how that could be, I mean, I thought in the budget line, that's why it was it's all these together. I don't know, I'll have to look it up, I'll look it up again,
Okay. All right, well, thanks for looking up.
I think, but see, I think with when you submit your budget to the county, they lump a bunch of stuff together. All their other sources are all lumped together, so, and then when the property taxes that are, collected, they aren't all on the property tax line, revenue line.
Mhm.
They're split into, let me see that revenue thing real quick. See, like, it's broken down into other governmental down here. And I'll just keep looking, but It seems like it's congruent with everything every year, we've had that amount of money, pretty much
Okay, well, I'll
appropriated
check
in our
the-
budget,
I'll check the last few years and see what those numbers were. I don't know, call me suspicious, but I just don't understand how it can be within $250 of each other, of
Well,
$67,500.
those are random numbers that the county auditor, you know, they don't look for
Is that their
exact
favorite,
numbers.
is that their favorite numbers?
It's just, maybe. You know, I think this is the way, they just come through a random, not random, but they round things up and down and, you know, they don't go to the penny,
Okay.
a single dollar. Well, I guess I don't have that answer yet.
All right, well, thank you for
Okay.
checking in the
I'll keep
first part.
trying.
Okay. Appreciate it. Is there anything else, Margaret?
No.
Else for the fiscal officer, Margaret? Mark for Margaret? Okay, cool. Now, what's Richard doing here? This is the question of the night.
The question is that. Richard is here because he was not able to attend the first meeting of the month and decided it wasn't a good idea to wait till the May meeting because he's got a million zoning permits. Wanted to update you.
All right.
Let's see, I'll just run through them. Tyler Sloan on Houston Road is building a barn. Robert and Janet Trame are building a deck on the rear of their house. Bartley Davis on Swimming Pool Road is doing significant remodeling. Drew Amstutz is building a new house where the old house was on the corner of West Enon and Hyde Road. You know that lot, you know, it's where Mrs. Bailey lived.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, the house was in such terrible condition when they bought that property that they've torn it down and they're replacing it.
Drew is who to Dale, just for,
I think it's his son,
is that right?
but I'm not positive about that. Then Don Nightingale out on Kyle Road is putting up a detached garage. And this one isn't a zoning permit, but Jessica Shelton is putting in a driveway on the lot they have on Harbison Road.
Well, you have been busy, haven't you?
What?
You have been busy, haven't you?
Yes, I mean, it's like every day. Oh, I actually did 2 permits, I think 2 or 3 permits in one day. That was a record.
The driveway, is that going with the new houses?
Yeah, yeah, the one we talked
They
about.
got it worked off.
When I was last here. Yep. So that's the news from the permit department. I don't have anything. Oh, I did send a letter to, I think it's officially the Arthur Morgan Institute for Community Service. Anyway, just going over what the agricultural zone permits, including the details about agritourism, which kind of expands what you can do. And with the caveat that, you know, what you have to do has to be directly related to agriculture. Not just, it's, you know, a nice thing to do on the property. And I said, if you have any trouble, you know, being sure of that one way or the other, you know, give me a call and we'll go over it. And that was based on primarily looking at their website and seeing all the events they had listed, and some of them seemed a little far away from agriculture. So I haven't, I may follow up with a phone call in a few days. I only sent that last week. But I'm sort of just keeping an eye on that because I don't want it to get out of hand.
Yeah.
It's obviously, the activities out there are very popular in the community, well attended, but that doesn't mean that we're trying to create a new, you know, I don't know what we want to call it, a new activity in the township. So those are the 2 important things I want to report to you.
Yeah, great. Well, it's nice to hear there's some activity and, I assume the not permit for the barn was just a consulting you on it? I mean, they're not required for a permit.
Well, this barn isn't entirely for agricultural purposes.
Oh, I see.
barn's kind of a loose term. Whenever anybody calls me up and, you know, and is inquiring, do I need a permit to build a barn, I say, what are you going to use the barn for? And I don't say anything until they list the things, and then I say, okay, then you need to pull a permit because that's not completely agricultural use. If it was only for agricultural purposes, then you could avoid the permit if you wanted to, you could avoid the building permit too. But, and then I also inform them, but be cautious, the little bit of work you do getting a zoning permit means you won't have any headaches down the road if you go to put electricity in the barn or any other things, because every time somebody comes in with an agricultural structure to the building department wanting to make improvements, and they call me up and say, is it all right? So usually the smoothest thing is to come in and pull a permit, even if they think it's only gonna be agricultural, and I say, like this one of the big reasons they're building this is for 4-H projects for the kids, but that only goes on for so long, and then usually people don't wanna tear down the barn after that. That's that sort of thing. So that's why there's a permit on most of the barns built in the township. Matter of fact, the people that are die-hard farmers, agricultural, know not to call up and ask in the first place.
Right. Yeah.
So that rarely happens that someone talks to me and I say, no, we don't need to do anything. But that calling, I do get calls from the building department, maybe once a year saying, you know, is this a legitimate structure, so forth and so on. So I think it's good for people to have the document that says they went through the process. Even though we have basically no restrictions in the agricultural zone on size or placement of any accessory structure. No, the concerns only are when you put additions on your house, because there are setback requirements for that.
Okay, thank you. Anything else for Richard? Okay. We'll move along to standing committee reports. VRPC did not meet last month, and regional planning is meeting tomorrow, and so I'm in between on that one. I have if I haven't told you before, I have a foundation, a Grand Island Mill Foundation meeting on the 29th, so that'll be before our next meeting with the other members, Nick Budis and Dave Newhart, and I'll give you a report on what happened at that. I don't believe the TAC met this past month either, but Don didn't have a report on that. He's not here, but if between Dan and Margaret, if there's any information on the cemetery board meeting that happened last Friday morning.
Well, I didn't get to attend, I had
Oh,
to
you didn't?
leave.
Oh,
Trees
trees.
falling down everywhere.
On Friday was
Susie
a
got
bad
here.
day for meetings, you know.
You did submit your maintenance? Mhm.
I did, it was 13,994, something like 13,994.
Is there a copy here or no?
That's it's a shop.
Oh, okay.
I didn't know I was wrong.
No. I noticed there was one in the truck, but I didn't stop and read it. I was gonna take it.
Yeah, I put it back in my desk today, and,
Yeah, okay, should have taken it.
but I do have a
Uh-huh.
copy, if you need it, I'll bring it down on your desk if you like.
Was there any discussion about that
I don't
from the
know.
other members?
Nope, it was just handed out, and as Dan already mentioned, they did approve the $13,000 estimate of
That's estimated, yes.
chip sealing all the roads in the cemetery. And they agreed to pay 1/3 of the Pontum service maintenance agreement for the year, which totaled about $600, which is already in the bank here.
Are we splitting the chip seal, or are you taking that out of cemetery board
They're
funds?
paying that out, they were paying that out of the cemetery fund,
Something.
Mhm.
straight up.
There's that much in there for that and the yearly maintenance? I thought they were starting to get a little tight. Apparently not.
Well, they're at
Mr.
third, I think it was, I think the last, the balance was about 34,000 right now.
Is that right? Huh.
Mhm.
Oh, excuse
It's
me.
enough to cover the chip seal, right? It's in
Yeah,
your face,
they
isn't it?
they counted up everything. They did some math
Mhm.
and decided to go for it,
Well,
because they just felt like it was, cause since they have it now, they might as well get it done.
yeah, well,
Basically.
it certainly needs it. There's absolutely no
Yeah.
question about
That's what
that.
they
Yeah.
pretty much felt that it's just, it needs it,
Or
so.
we're gonna have more cost if we don't do something
Right.
soon.
Right, so,
you gonna go over the new road with it, or what are you gonna do?
But that includes the new route.
It does?
That's what the gravel's for. There's a $800 for gravel, that was for the, to put on the new road before they chipped it,
Mm-hmm,
because it needs more gravel.
yeah.
You get that taken care of.
Interesting. Anything going on with you, Mark, that I've kind of lost track of, the economic sustainability group? little bit.
I talked to, I'm trying to remember the gentleman's name.
Saul,
But,
or?
Saul
Oh.
Weimer, chatted with him on the street, and he had planned to forward me information on the research that had been done previously in regards to financial stability within the village. And he did that, and then I missed this last meeting.
Oh,
But I have talked to him since, and we're making progress. The thing that struck him was the similarity of the information gathered
mhm.
and the current questions that have been posted. And I think that it makes sense. I mean, everything changes, but everything stays the same, basically. We've had considerable change in employment in the village. Bernays is gone, Morris Beam is a shadow of its former self. Antioch Footplate is gone. But those questions still have to be answered. What decisions are needed as we go forward.
Mhm. Mhm.
But, so that's where that stands at this point. And in regards to the senior center, Suzanne, Patterson, communicated with me earlier about the status of the report and research being done on the senior apartment complex.
Mhm.
And apparently everything is moving forward just as well
Yeah,
as could be expected.
well, that's good. Yeah. All right, well, thank you.
And let's see, the McKee Group is sponsoring their scholarship application,
Mhm.
and that's kind of what I was doing this afternoon.
Well, one item that's not on the list, I don't know if we should put it on for the future or not, the ongoing organizational meeting for the Yellow Springs Dedicated Community Development Corporation, YSDDC. Met again, the beginning of April. I think it was the same day we met, so I may have reported it, now that I think about it, because it was, April 1st was the first day, was our last meeting, and that was the meeting date, so I think I probably talked about that. But we will meet
Yeah,
again.
it'd be, because that's when we discussed cut and check.
Yeah, that's right, So,
And then I
we-
did cut and
yeah.
check this meeting, so,
I noticed, thank you.
yeah, we must have talked about it before.
Yeah, nice segue. So we'll meet again probably the same day as we meet in May, since it's gonna be next Monday. So I look forward to that. Any old business, or any new business? I don't know if it's new business or old business, but I did attend a luncheon last Thursday, interviews. Did you go to that? Everybody there?
Oh,
Was there?
I
Village
went,
manager,
village
Yeah.
manager, I went, the breakfast at senior citizens
Oh.
on Thursday.
Okay, I went.
I didn't go, I couldn't go in the evening the night before, but I went in the morning and met all the candidates. And
Well, I went to lunch at Antioch
you were probably, they had special,
Yeah.
different other meetings for
Yeah.
officials and,
at Birch Hall. And it was very interesting. They all seemed to be very, very well-spoken, well-qualified. I don't know if they're deciding tonight or not, but
they're supposed to.
that's what I heard.
one of them is a former Miami Township Fire Rescue
Mhm.
person.
Yep. So we'll see. I was, you know, you end up, you do have favorites, but, you know, none of them are certainly,
And I had that same impression that I wouldn't be unhappy with any of them.
yeah.
One person said one thing I liked, and another person said a different thing that I liked, and,
Mhm.
but they answered my pointing questions equally well.
Yeah, the one answer, and I won't attribute it, is, well, you know, what do you think about the condition or the utilities in town? Well, they seem to be in good condition, but, you know, the price is a little high, and the only way to get that down is to, you know, to get more users, so, you know, I think, you know, what would be necessary was, you know, just push for more housing. You know, get some development started, get some, you know, there's some bigger pieces of land that, you know, you might be able to get some subdivisions put on, and, you know, he or she might have, in my opinion, might have gone just a hair
too
further
far.
than.
Well, it takes a while to get to understand the dynamics of the whole process.
Yeah. So, we'll see how that goes. Any other new or old business? Apparently not. Hearing none, I will call for adjournment. We're adjourned. I'll answer another question. Beat you to it, Mark.
All right.
So,
You were dying to
set
be.
my timer.